Hello everyone, welcome to another Inkarnate live stream. Today we are going to be creating a Hunter's Lodge with the Fantasy Battlemap 2.0 style, and we're going to be including showcasing some new mini packs within the style, basically a hunter and a animals packs. So we'll be incorporating that into the Hunter's Lodge as well. Now if you want to follow along today's stream, you totally can clone and edit this map. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat, so you just click that link, clone, edit. Now I've already created the exterior. That's all that stuff that you see already on the map. Now I've went ahead and made sure to turn the creation of the exterior into a time lapse, because some of you might be like, well, how did I make the exterior part? Don't worry, I'm going to be posting that to YouTube as well, the time lapse on how to make that. And as for the lodge thing, I'm really excited about this. I love those two new little mini packs. They're really, really nice. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump right into it right away. What we'll first do is we want to figure out the scale. As always, I like to turn on the grid, and I set mine to 20 by 15. Now, and then this way you kind of have a decent size map. It's not going to be too massive, but it's also not going to be tiny as well. Now, each one of those obviously represents 5 square feet, and I've left a lot of room on this map to put that to put the structure on. So what we'll do first, of course, is we're going to pull out the shape tool. And we're going to use this new beta 2.0 shape tool to create the general shapes of the structure. And what I'm going for is did some research and decided maybe I want to do a traditional hunting lodge or kind of just make up a fantasy one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with a fantasy one. I'm going to go with a shape tool. And I'm just going to pick this particular wall for right now. Then we'll switch and change the wall settings. That's the beautiful thing about the shape and line tools, is that you can change the wall segment or the wall texture or stamps to anything that you really want. So if you're not satisfied, you can do it. What I want is kind of a maybe circular, a main area where there's like a fire pit. It's a hunter's lodge. So I want like a giant fire pit where people can maybe cook food there, maybe they want to skin, or if they want to do taxidermy or whatever it might be, there has enough room to fit all the different duties that a hunter needs to do to kind of use all those animal parts when they're hunting. So I'll use this, and I'm going to go with like an octagon shape. I'm going to go with 8. And I want to do snap to grid. Now you'll notice that there's no snap to grid right here. If you're wondering where it is, it's down here at the bottom, the very, very bottom, and it says show grid, and then right next to that, snap to grid. And that way it will snap to it. And then I want to go ahead and just click, and hold, and then drag. And I'm going to create the shape. And remember, I'm using the grid as a guide. And then once that pops up, we have like the basic shape. And then what's really cool is even with the snap grid still on, I can still move it around. My only suggestion is that when you are doing this, make sure that you line them up with the grid in a way where it's obvious where a wall is and like that. So I'm moving it around like this. I think this overall, maybe even move it a little bit more this way. This looks kind of fine. And then this will be the main central part of the room where people are sleeping, maybe doing some of the activities that they're doing. And then I want to go back to the room tool, and I'm going to choose the rectangular shape. And I want to create like a little pop-out area. And so I'll click, hold, drag, go out like this. There we go. That looks good. And I might even want to make it even bigger. Let's make it this big instead. Make it even bigger. There we go. So you got some nice shape right there. And then what's really cool is once you've set those outer walls, you start with the outer walls first, and then you move into the inner walls. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can go about doing it, but I like to make my inner walls with the line tool, and I'm going to choose the pen. And then I'm going to just click, hold, press enter. And then there is, now what I want to do now is I also want to set where the doors are. So how do I get into that small rectangular room? How do I get into that main large octagon shape room? How do I get into that? And the way that we go about doing that is we have a line right here. When we have a shape, we're going to go to the shape tool. We're going to click the portals section. And when I click the portals, I want to make sure that it's in a space that where the grid is exactly, and see it fits to the grid perfectly. But I also want to do the same to the line. So I have to select the line tool, click portals, and then decide where I want that portal to be, right? So there we have exterior walls and the interior walls. We might want to also portray this illusion of depth How is it that I make it like, hey, maybe I want to have the center part be further down in the ground. So how do I show it? How do I show that? That's not complex. I'm going to use the polygon shape again. I'm going to turn merge shape off. I don't want these shapes to merge. Then I'm going to go ahead and select like this, make it the right shape, and then I'm going to line it up to where it's in the center. So this is going to be, consider this not a wall, but a step going down into the fire pit area. One way that I could show that it's a step, that it's not a wall, is to turn off the shadows. So I can go into the advanced options, turn the shadow off, step 1. And then we'll do other things to represent that this is a part that goes down. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to fill this in, whole thing, with the add mode of the mask tool. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to paint accidentally bleed out onto the exterior part. So the entire exterior right now, the entire canvas is the BG layer. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead to the mask tool. I'm going to use the rectangular shape and I'm just going to click enter and fill in this space like this. And I'll just start with the grid first to help me out. And then I can go ahead and just use other tools to fill in the rest of it. Like I made a mistake right there. I can go into the here and just go subtract, remove that, and then go back to the add mode and then fill in. Let's bring the size down. Fill in the spots that I missed. And I also want to turn off the mask effects. One thing I noticed about mask effects, especially when you're editing in a higher resolution, is it can be kind of laggy. So to avoid that, if you do want to use the mask effects, just turn them on when you're done editing the map. And that way they'll show, and then it won't cause any kind of lag, all right? Now I want to choose a texture for the ground, okay? And what I'll do is I want to choose, I got this nice stone texture, like the whole building is stone, it seems like, or at least the bottom part is stone. So now I want to switch to the foreground. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make it a little bit darker because we're using contrast to make the walls pop out to seem they're higher up. And so what if I fill this up with the add mode of the mask tool, you notice that the walls kind of blend with the floor. But when I go to the advanced settings, go to color, and I bring the brightness down a bit, and then I click fill again, you notice that the walls begin to pop out. Now that's a little too dark. We'll keep going up a little bit more. There we go. That looks dark enough to where it contrasts. And then I'm also going to use that darker texture that I had there to show that there's even more contrast. So let's use this dark one right here to make it look like this is even deeper. So you're using contrast to create depth. So that's where the fire pit is. That's where the sleeping, the bed rolls are going to be, all that stuff. Let's also add in some stairs because stairs are a great way to also represent depth. So if I type in stairs, I'm going to click these ones right here. Let's use a small one. And I'm going to scale it down. And I'm also going to make sure that it's a layer below. And then I also want to bring the brightness down so it matches the same kind of brightness or darkness as the texture beneath it. You can, of course, just go to the blend mode like this and just go to luminosity, and that will bring the color, and then you just bring the brightness down until it matches around the same darkness as the floor. And then I can just copy and paste that. Let's also turn those mask effects off. I think I forgot to do that. There we go. Now you're off. And then I can take these and put that right there. And of course, if the luminosity button, luminosity blend mode shows that little brown right there, you can just turn it off, turn it back to normal, and it still matches with here. And of course, you can also change the contrast. You'll notice that it's a little bit darker contrasts in there. I can bring the contrast down so that it matches a little bit more with that stone texture beneath it, right? So that works out. And I can also just take those same ones, copy paste, and I can just put some on top right here like this, and that way you know that there are stairs that go down into this area right here. I can copy paste it, and it's still set to snap to grid, so that works out great. Stairs going down that way, stairs going down that way. And so again, the fire pit will be in the center, the bed rolls will be there, and on the outside of that ring will be the areas where we're going to have benches. We'll have some other stuff in those areas for like maybe skinning or whatever it might be, letting out blood or whatever it is that the hunter might be doing, taxidermy, whatever it is. So now we've added that. So we're doing the basic floor work, the walls, the floors, making sure that things blend together. And they do seem to be overall coming together pretty well. So I'm satisfied with that so far. Now I've only got 45 changes. We'll do about 50 or more changes and then we'll save it. I always recommend saving around 100 changes or so. Let's go ahead and put in maybe some doors would be a good idea. Just type in door and we can do lots of different types of doors. I think I kind of like these pirate doors that have the curvature right here. This is kind of cool. It kind of shows some perspective to it. I've always said that when you add in some stamps that have a little bit of perspective, it always looks a little bit nicer. So throw in a little bit of perspective. So let's first throw down where the door shams are, and we'll put another one right here. There we go. And then we'll take the door and I'm going to connect it into here. I'm going to turn off snap to grid because not everything's going to work perfectly to snap to grid. You see how this is just moving by little pixels here and there. So I have to change it up. I'm going to copy paste and put another one right here like that. So now you have doors going in. That looks good. The other thing that we might want to do is maybe show that there's some pillars as well that are kind of holding up. We could also just look up wall piece here. And I think there should be these little pieces right here. And what we can do is put a hard object shadow to show that these are higher up. So we'll go ahead and move this way so we can see what we're editing here in the shadow. Really bring the intensity up. And then we have this nice hard shadow right here that kind of shows like, hey. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste those. I'm going to put them on each corner. And this kind of represents pillars that are holding up the roof, some of the roof in that center part. There you go. And of course, they do seem a little odd, so I'm going to rotate a couple, change them in different directions so that way they're not all facing the exact same way. You notice that all of these are all kind of facing the same way, and that looks kind of bizarre. So a way to avoid that is just rotate a couple of them. Let's go ahead and now add the main center pieces. For me, the center piece in a hunting lodge would probably be where the fire pit is, so we can type in fire. And maybe there's some cooking over the fire, so we can put one like right here. This is like 10 feet, so that's rather large. We could make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Maybe rotate it a little bit. Make sure it's still lined up. So there's the fire pit. What's the next step? There's going to be bed rolls, right? It's going to be where people are sleeping. So let's go ahead and put those down. We'll put one there, and make sure they're away from the steps. It doesn't make any sense to put a bedroll right in front of the staircase, now does it, right? So don't do that. We'll move them over to here. And in fact, we can even scale them down just a little bit smaller. There we go. I think that looks all right. Let's see here. Is about right? Yeah, that's about right. We can even scale it up just a little bit more. Let's go to 70. There we go. So you have the beds there. You have that fire pit there. Let's go ahead and create the benches, those other things that we're going to want to add to it. So we'll type in bench, tables, any of those things will work. We got some long benches right here. These are great for like a workbench. Put one over there. Then let's type in table. Okay, I got a nice decent sized table right here. Let's scale it down. And I want to put it a layer below. There we go. So now it looks like it's hugged all the way against the wall. And you have a nice workstation here. In fact, we'll put it over here. That would give it a little bit more room. And let's copy and paste that bench and put another one down. And also I want to bring these down a layer. There we go. I want the shadows from this shape right here to hit that bench so it looks like there's depth there. So you can put it right there. There we go. So we have our nice workstation. We can throw in another one. I think we should throw in another table maybe in right here. And that way people can put stuff there, whatever they want, a workbench, or even give it like a kitchen kind of setup to where there's a center island, and that's where maybe your workbench or the work table is, where people put their tools, their weapons, whatever it might. We can even put some dressers or some things along the walls. Crates are a great filler. So we're at 98 changes. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I want to let that save. All right. It's saving quickly. That's great. Now we're going to be throwing in a lot more stuff. I think we have quite a bit of time left still. That's great. We've got about 25 minutes left, so we should be able to finish a lot of this. Let's keep adding stuff to the rooms. I see some benches here. There should be some smaller benches as well. Let's throw in some smaller benches. I saw this one's right here. Let's also put them down a layer. And because I want these to represent like a workbench, I'm going to bring the brightness down. Remember that contrast trick? Bring the brightness down. Let's go to 80, 82. And I'm going to go put it, and I'm not going to line it up perfectly. I'm going to rotate it a little bit because I want to create this illusion of use, right? Sometimes when people get off a bench, they move it a little bit and they don't put it back. This kind of shows use. So we're going to put benches in there that are not perfectly lined up with the table itself. We'll put a bench over here like this. We'll rotate it a little bit. You can put it underneath or you can put it far away from it. You could put one, maybe there's one over the side right here like this. It's really up to you how you want to go about it. We're just going to go with one over here like this. Or it could just be a workbench where you stand and maybe you want to put one right here instead, or some workbench or a sitting bench right here. So you have a lot of options. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Let's go ahead and add in some crates, some barrels, that kind of filler stuff. And then let's take a look at the hunting and animals pack, because now we have some places to put those animals. We have some places to put the stuff that we want. And in fact, I might even not go with the island effect and have this be where the butcher area is. And I'll even put in, maybe have this part right here be open a little bit. Or maybe I can throw in some windows to kind of represent like, hey, this needs to air out. So I can throw in some windows here, put a window on top. I can put one right here if I wanted to, or I can put a big one right here that kind of lines up. And we'll put this part right here. Maybe you want some windows. You got to see what you're doing, right? So let's throw in some windows. Then we have some natural lighting going on, and because this is where the fire pit is, maybe we won't put any windows in this section so that way it will retain heat. Great way to lose heat is to have windows because it goes through the glass, the pane, whatever it's made out of. So not putting any windows in a room where you want it to be the warmest room is a great way. So I got windows so that you can see the light source is not going to be light from the exterior. It's going to be that fire pit. And we can even throw in some candles and stuff like that if you want to add in additional lighting. Let's go ahead and add in the crates and barrels real quick. And then we'll throw in those animal packs. And I'm going to bring the brightness down. I want them to be even darker. So I'll put one here. And what I do is I'll maybe place just a couple here and there. And then I'll go ahead and drop the scale down and then throw in smaller versions of it. So I can put one over here, maybe bring it a little bit bigger. Because, not all crates are the exact same size. It'd be weird if you had 20 crates in the room and they were all the exact same size, because there are different types of goods that can be packaged up. So having various shapes of crates is a great way to give it that kind of realistic look. So make sure you throw in that. And then we can finally go into the animal and hunting packs. So, and what we'll do is we'll just go directly there. I think it's actually called creatures. Sorry, not animals. So there's creatures here. And you can see there's a lot of different creatures in here. Dragons, mythical creatures, lots of different ones. And we can go with whatever we want. There's a lot of different ways we can go about it. So you have a lot of different animals here. And then there's a hunting pack as well right here. And I'll go ahead and expand all the assets so you can kind of take a look at it. So we want to make sure to put some trophies on the wall, maybe put up some skins on the floor. All those things are going to be helpful to kind of show like, hey, this is a lodge, right? So first, let's start. I'm going to start adding in stuff into this room right here. This is like the room where they maybe drain the blood, or they do drain the blood outside and then bring the animal in here to be skinned, and then they can, or defeathered or whatever it might be, and then move into the other room where they do the cooking in there, all right? And I'm going to rotate some of these tables as well so that it's not perfectly lined up. Again, I want to show this illusion of use. And same thing with the crates. Rotate them a little bit. Not every single time you put a crate down, it's not perfectly going to be lined up with the grid, right? Rotating things here and there is a great way of kind of breaking that symmetry up, breaking up those straight lines, making it look a lot better. So great trick there, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and throw in, I think the slaughtering will be done outside. So what we'll do is we'll go into the creatures section, and we'll maybe put some, a wolf, a fox, or whatever it is. Maybe we can put a couple here on the side. Maybe they're doing some taxidermy. We could put one underneath the table and bring the brightness down. You know that trick. Put one down here like this. Poor defenseless animal. I'm sorry. And then we'll flip and rotate. I don't want them to look exactly the same. So maybe they haven't gotten to skinning these animals yet, so they're over there on the side somewhere. We could throw like a pig on a table if you want. Maybe they're going to cook some bacon, so you can put a cow or pig on the table. Let's say that we want to, there's some ducks or something. Maybe we want to put another smaller table. A smaller one, and then maybe put some ducks on there. Put in table. There's a circular one. Circular tables are a great way to kind of break up the blockiness of a room. So one could go here, and that's okay because it's right here. There's a door right here. It's not going to get in the way of it. So we'll put down this, and I want to make sure it's down a layer, and then I can go ahead and take those ducks and kind of just put them on top of the table here. There we go. We'll go back to our creatures here. It's a hunting lodge, so you're going to expect to see some critters running around, some animals running around. Maybe we want to throw in a hunting dog in here as well. That could just be a token on your VTT or whatever you're playing. But, you know, you would expect there to be hunting dogs. So maybe they're resting. Maybe they just kind of took one of the bedrolls away. Maybe there's some puppies as well, so maybe they're playing with the puppy. Put that underneath there. Let's go ahead and put another puppy in here, maybe one here, and then we'll put some more animals in here as well. Maybe one going down the stairs to go to the fire, like that. That looks good. And then we also want to maybe throw in some stuff on the walls, like we want to throw in, let's go to hunting here. Maybe we want to, let's see, we've got a rock trophy, we've got a unicorn trophy, hippogriff. Let's use like this trophy head should work fine. And we can just put them on the walls. So I can put like one right here maybe. And I'm just going to put the shadow down so it's underneath. We've got one there. We can put a bear one maybe right here. And we want to make sure that the crates are beneath that. So I'll push it down a layer. You always want to be aware of layers. Since I can't even see that crate, let's put it right here. Okay, and let's keep adding a couple more heads to it. Let's put one right here. Maybe one right... we could put one in here if we want, or we can put one right here. Right here, I think looks good. There we go. And then just push the crate down below. And one thing we could do is put on the custom object shadow, so that way they pop out. So you got those heads. Maybe that's too much. You don't have to add as many as you want. Then you can throw on just a couple, or if you want to show that there's some kind of overlap over the bench, you can put one right there. One, maybe just one on each wall. You can line it up with the grid if you want or not. Let's put another one right here, maybe. There we go. And I'll put the this guy right here going in. Let's put him over here. Again, you can use a token. You don't have to add these if you don't want to. So we got those there. And I think I can turn off the grid. And we can take a step back and take a look at it. And I think it looks okay. Let's change up some of the shadow options. You select that shape. And you're going to go into the shadow here. Select that shadow option. And I'm going to change it to where the light, it's nice and dark to really show like the walls pop out. There we go. The walls pop out. That could be a little too dark. I think that should be okay. Let's push it all the way out. There we go. Nice and dark so you can kind of see it. And we're at 79 changes. Let's make sure to throw in some, let's add in some more textures to kind of make it look a little bit better. So what I really like to use is dry grass. If you just type in dry, you've got this dry grass, which I use as dirt. I think it works great. You do have to do some size adjusting. I've mentioned this in previous videos. Whenever you're using a particular scale, you want to remember to scale the textures down with it. Now, that's not the golden rule. where sometimes, you know, you always have to scale down, but more than not, you're going to end up scaling down. So make sure that you scale the textures down to relatively the same scale as the stamp scale that you set, okay? Now I'm going to also bring the brightness down on it a little bit, and I'm going to change the opacity and make sure the softness is all the way up. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a trail, basically leading from to the doors as if people are walking around. Let's also make a trail that goes around the whole upper part of it as well. So it looks like people have been walking in and out. And then of course we're going to put some dirt in here as well. And what this does, again, it just kind of gives this illusion that you're kind of walking, that there's been dirt tracked in from the outside. You see there's dirt all out here. So you want to portray that transition, that there's dirt on the outside, dirt going on the inside when they're walking around with their dirty boots. What are they doing with their dirty boots in my timber lodge? Okay, now we've done 112 changes. We're going to save. And then we're going to throw in some more details, and then we're going to call it good. We still have a little bit of time left. It's amazing how much you can accomplish with the beta 2.0 with the line and shape tools in just 30 minutes. You know, it's only been 26 minutes. We've gotten so much done, and it looks really good. So I'm really kind of glad the way that it's going. And the way that I kind of determine details is what are the bigger objects and what are the functions. So if that entrance room is where the skinning happens, we're going to need some tools, right? Maybe we're going to need a knife, right? Maybe we're going to need a dagger, where we're going to need tools to do the skinning, right? So maybe we want to throw in a couple knives on the table. It can be big ones, small ones. It doesn't really matter. So you got some knives there. Maybe put a big knife here. Maybe we want to put some blood on the floor. And I actually kind of like the blood better from the watercolor battle map style. I kind of like that a little bit better, so we'll go ahead and use that instead. And then we'll put some blood, and we're going to make sure it goes down several layers, right? And I'm going to change the opacity. And one trick that I use to make blood look like it was just spilt, it's flesh, leave it at 100%. If you want to look like blood has dried there over time and worn off, just drop the opacity a little bit. Okay, so kind of a nice trick to show whether blood is old, this is new, fresh, or if it's gotten older and dried and crusted. It's that opacity. Okay, so what I want to do is show that it's kind of, you know, maybe a creature dragged in, there was a little bit of blood left, and I want to put maybe a little bit of blood in here, not too much. I don't want like it looked like there was a death blow in here. I think the butchering would happen outside. You could put some blood in there, but we can put a little bit of blood here and there on the floor, maybe a little bit over here. You can even bring it into here a little bit, put it next to the fire. Maybe when they moved it, it bled out just a little bit. So throwing in just a little bit of blood here and there is kind of a great little trick that you can do. All right, I think that looks good so far. Let's keep going. Let's throw in some more details. We could throw in some crates and barrels into this room. Right here, let's maybe put some in the corner. Corners are a great place. Put one up against this wall. I want to show that there's one underneath the table, so we'll put one right there, underneath, and then we'll bring the scale down and have some smaller crates, kind of just sitting around. One right there, maybe one over here. There we go. And then a couple more crates over here. There we go. All right, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and add in some stuff for where the fire pit is. There's going to need to be maybe some logs for maybe you want to split some wood, or maybe the log splitting goes outside. So let's throw in just a couple logs because, you know, you got to throw those onto the fire, right? So we'll take some logs and we're going to create a pile of logs, and we can put them over here somewhere. And I have this cool trick that I like when I do this. What I'll do is I'll bring the brightness down a little bit and create one row. So one. Okay, and it's also set to automatic random, and I don't, or to this random rotation. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to place 5 right here, bring it up another layer, and then change the brightness to maybe 80, and then change the brightness again, even higher up, and then bring it up another layer, and then you have this kind of it looks like there's a triangle stack of logs because you've used contrast to create that nice illusion. So that works out really well. We also want to throw in maybe an axe as well. I think there's some in the tools here. There's an axe right here. A good place to maybe put that would be next to the firewood. Maybe you want it leaning up against it like this. So you have that. And maybe we want to have a shovel to put out the fire. We can maybe put that over here somewhere. Kind of makes sense. Shovels have multiple purposes. You can put it right here on top of that bench right there. We can keep adding more stuff to it. Maybe there's a hammer right here for repairs. So we want to add that tool in here somewhere. Let's scale it down and put it on this bench right here. That works out great. Let's keep adding more stuff. Let's throw in tools and see if there are other tools that we might want to add. Here's a nice little skin right here. You know, people got to be able to drink, so we'll throw in a skin there. We'll throw in another skin. We'll put one maybe on top of the bed here. And then maybe even for scaling up a hill or something, or up a mountain, if you're trying to reach maybe a special hunting ground, then we're going to have some way of scaling up that. So you got to think about the kind of items that a hunter would need, right? So throwing in these type of tools. Maybe there's a broom in there with it because they have to sweep up the dirt or sweep up maybe blood or chunks of animal or whatever it might be. So maybe lean a broom up against this table right here. See, there's just so many details that you can come up with, and you just really got to think of what the function of the room is, what's happening in that room, what is it all about, and that kind of helps you decide what details to add. And I also want to maybe add some characters. Maybe I want to add some character to the hunters that live in this lodge or are currently using this lodge during a hunting season. Maybe one of them is a troubadour and they're in the non-hunting season, so they have an instrument there. Maybe one of them likes to read books. You could throw in a book on one of the thing. I mean, this is how you show character with, you know, like who was here, what are the NPCs in here. Maybe one of them sitting by the bedside and has that guitar or that lute or whatever that instrument is. I don't know. So throwing in those extra details is really, really helpful. And then we kind of, once we've done that, then we can start throwing in some light sources to kind of show that there is light. And then once we've added the light sources, we can throw in the shadows. So you just type in light. And the first one is there's a fire pit right here. It kind of makes sense to throw in a light source. And I'm going to go to the very top +5 layer and put a light right there. And let's put another one a little bit smaller right over it. So you have this nice light source there. And then I also want to show those light going into, from the window going into this room. So I can go ahead and just place a light source there. And if it doesn't kind of fit right, then you can always go to your transform option and go to width and do like this. Or if you want, you can use a different stamp. Like maybe you want to use this kind of circular one right here, half circle one, to show that there's light coming in. You can do that. Maybe the light is over here somewhere, so you can still have light sources coming out of these windows as well. If you want to show like where the exact sunlight is, then you can have that at full opacity, because maybe the light is not over here. You can just bring the opacity down and make it look like light still comes in, but that's not where the light source is. The light source is over here on this side. Here's where the light source is right here. So the light is going to be brightest going into those windows, while the light source going in, the light going into this top window will be slightly more diminished. Great way of determining a light, right? Now that I've done that, I can start playing with shadows because I know where my light sources are. And in fact, I think what we need too is a couple candles as well. And what I like to do is to have some candles that are lit and some that aren't lit. And what I do is I'll throw down one candle or a couple candles in each area that I want a candle to be. One there, there, there. We can even throw one right here. Let's throw one on top of here. Let's throw one. I think that looks good. And we'll make sure to throw the light source on top of that as well. And I think I accidentally put these all on layer 5. Excuse me. So we'll go ahead and just go select all from this set. and bring it down a layer. Now I can go and use those light sources and put that on layer 5 right above. There we go. And now that I've determined where the light sources are, I can start putting shadows that are going away from the light source. Okay, now that I've established that, let's go ahead and save at 89 changes, and then we'll start throwing in the shadow work. And there's a lot of different ways to go about shadows. You can paint it, you could use object shadows, you could use the top layer, you could use a path or a line tool with blur and a color. Lots of different ways to go about doing it. It's up to you, okay? Let's see how much time we have to. Oh, we got 5 minutes left, but that's still enough time to kind of do this shadow stuff. Because we're running short on time, I'll show you the quick way. And I'm going to use the top layer. It's at 38%. I'm going to use it at 30. And I'm going to choose a color. So I'll go to color, black. And what I want to do is just show that the light is... show that light is emanating away from the thing. Now, first thing we saw were these pillars right here, right? So one thing we could do is start taking that object shadow or using the top layer to start creating some shadows that emanate away from the light source, because these are pillars, right? The way to show that is to throw some light sources that are kind of emanating away from the light source. So we'll go ahead and do this. Might have to do a couple strokes, put another one over here like this. That looks good. And we'll just keep adding a couple more strokes in here. There we go. There's that first step right there. Then you can also start throwing in, like there's a light source right here. So you would kind of expect the hammer to be projecting a shadow away from that light source. So I'll just change the shadow like this, bring the intensity up a little bit. We're going to move it a little bit this way. And we'll bring the intensity down so the shadow's facing that way. That's perfect. How about this one right here? Same thing. Use that custom object shadow. And we're going to push it. We're going to bring the intensity up so we can kind of see it better. There we go. And then we can change it as we see fit. Bring the intensity down. There we go. That looks good. Same thing here. Light source. Let's put this right here. And then we'll take the custom object shadow, move it a little bit that way. Bring the intensity up. There you go. Looks good. Same thing here. We'll go ahead and take the object shadow, move it a little bit, and try to put it away from, facing away from the light source. So you get the general idea. Sometimes for individual objects or stamps, I'll use custom object shadows. Sometimes I'll use the top layer. It really depends on what you're using it for. That's up to you. Let's go ahead and do that. Bring the opacity, or bring the intensity up a little bit. There we go. Shadow looks good. Same thing here. Same with all of these ones, right? Shadow. And you notice that as you start adding those shadows, it starts to add a little bit of depth to it. So it ends up looking kind of nice. Now, one thing that I noticed that the light source does is it kind of makes, it doesn't make this texture look quite as dark. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the opacity down a little bit more here. And then I can go ahead and throw this down. And that way, I still want this to be darker to show that it's further down. So I'll make that a little bit darker there. And now we have the shadows from the pillars. We have the shadows facing away from the pig, right? We want to make sure that this is set to 0. Bring the intensity up. Push it that way. See, the shadow is away from there. Same thing with this one. If I wanted to do that, I'd put it right there. And then push the shadow this way, like this. So it's emanating away from the light source. So you get the general idea. Light source, throw down shadows. So pretty simple stuff, easy to put together. But I think overall this looks really nice. I like the way that it kind of turns out. There's so many more details that you could throw in, more tools, whatever, just tons of different things. And of course, there's all kinds of stuff that I could put in the exterior, like having an area where they let out the blood, drain the blood, and then, you know, maybe clean it, things like that. Or maybe there's a wood chopping area for chopping up the larger logs, and then you can put the smaller logs into the lodge. So really just got to think about what are the functions, what are the things that need to be done, and that just makes putting all the details in so much easier. So very simple hunting lodge. You got to see the creatures pack, and you got to see the hunting pack. So definitely go check out those things. They're in the Fantasy 2.0 or Fantasy Battlemap 2.0 style. Super excited about that. Thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll be having the stream calendar up for next month, for April, and I look forward to seeing you all as well. I believe the next one would likely be Secrets of the Citadel Ruins Part 4, which I've been having a lot of fun with you all. So again, thank you everyone for showing up. You guys are awesome. Love having you here, and I look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday. Please stay safe and healthy. Auf Wiedersehen, my friends. Merry map making.